I was like 3 or 4.
Sean, could you try restarting?
This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
You just can't keep a good dog down. Karl Modhoff's happy hunting grounds at Imola provided an easy romp to victory and extends his point lead. But while his clinical style made it tough to challenge him at the chicane-ridden Italian track, here in Wisconsin, there's going to be few places to hide. These GTE cars aren't known for giving off a huge slipstream, but Road America straights are likely to be long enough to allow his rivals to continuously apply pressure. Can anyone manage to find cracks in the armor? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing eSports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nick, Elkhart Lake tends to provide thrillers both in real life and here in the sim. Tell us a little bit about why that is.
Yeah, Joe, no matter what kind of car is racing here at Road America, the fans come out in humongous masses, both in the real world and the sim world. And the show, it never disappoints. IMSA, IndyCar, and even the NASCAR Xfinity Series make an annual stop here, as well as other smaller sports car series. And the track is designed perfectly for any kind of racecraft to be challenging, but also exciting here. It's fast here at the Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin venue. It's so fast that it's often referred to as America's National Park of Speed. And it really does fit in well with that national park vibe, too. The scenery here is absolutely stunning, and the elevation change gives the track a lot of character as well. Even the front stretch here showcases that huge and notorious climb to the finish line. The 6.5 kilometers, or about 4 miles of pure speed, are interrupted 14 times by 14 turns. Granted, not all of those turns are slow and technical. Some of them really test your bravery, most notably the daunting kink, where you want to be as fast as possible, but not so fast that you end up in some of that stunning Wisconsin foliage behind the barriers. You've got an array of varying other turns and racing styles to have to deal with here too, with places like the Carousel, Canada Corner, and that hard braking zone down into the uphill left double-hander of turns 5 and 6. With all that being said, I think it's time to stop Wisconsin badgering around and get you onto the track with our GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC4 GT, so let's do a lap around Road America. The front stretch is by far the longest and fastest straight on the circuit, so turn 1 is easily going to be a good passing zone. Expect a few draft battles to erupt here, and of course, to be finished in this first corner. But this is a pretty rapid turn. It's only down 2 gears, and then you're back on the power trying to avoid understeering into the dirt. You've got a short blast down to 3, which is definitely one of the more important corners you'll navigate. Don't worry about your entry here so much as your exit. There's a lot of time to be lost if you get back to the gas late. That's because you're now on the moraine sweep. It's not exactly straight, so keep that in mind when you're battling with someone so that you don't drift into one another. But the real reason you see a lot of passes here is the heavy braking into turn 5. However, remember that this is a pretty decent drop downhill, and it'll be embarrassingly easy to outbrake yourself. Then you climb back into turn 6. The difficulty here is that the crest makes the window for braking very narrow. Wait too long, the car will just slide its way into the gravel. After that comes turn 7. As fast as this corner is, you'll need a lift to make it through. Now you're into the hurry downs. Surprisingly, despite the short run, you'll see passes into here from time to time. It's pretty sharp, so there's lots of braking, and that creates opportunities. This brings us into the famous carousel. Try to be patient as you swing the car through here. A later apex will do you much better than getting greedy on the power and having to make a sudden lift. Then, once you finally exit the corner, you'll see the notorious kink. As much downforce as this GTE car has, you still can't take this flat out. Precision is critical because as you fly through the kettle bottoms, a lack of speed will make you susceptible to an attack into Canada Corner. Try to straighten out this braking zone and then get the car turned in. You don't have much time after that before you're taken into turn 13. This blind crest is tricky in just about any car, and is another thread-the-needle situation in the Ford. Finally, there's the last corner. This is another one I'd advise to not ruin your exit on. Now that we're coming back to the front stretch, carrying your momentum is of the utmost importance. You don't want to find yourself a sitting duck on your way to turn 1. Climb up the hill, hold it to the left, and hopefully you've now finished a lap around Road America.
And as Nick mentioned, there's some really beautiful scenery, even here in the sim, with all those trees surrounding the track. But as always, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. The Simulation Motorsports Association is a sim racing platform created by experienced racers. Established in 2015 and supported by the International Sim Racing Federation, the association is bringing together organizations and communities to further promote sim racing globally. Concentrating on all sims worldwide, they offer a focused opportunity for sim racers to compete with each other. They also provide consultancy services for this growing esports world. SimMSA offers solutions for racing simulator requirements and custom-built simulator parts, as well as complete customization and upgrading of existing simulators. You can find them at SIMMSA.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Frazier Deeter. Frazier Deeter is a nationally recognized PCAOB registered CPA and advisory firm headquartered in Atlanta with thousands of clients globally. It provides a wide range of services, including tax, audit, advisory, internal controls, and transaction support to achieve each client's unique financial goals. With offices in Alpharetta, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Nashville, and Tampa, Frazier Deeter has consistently been named the best CPA firm by Inside Public Accounting and is ranked among the top 60 largest CPA firms in the United States. You can find them at FrazierDeeter.com. Big thanks to both those companies for coming on board to sponsor this season of the GTE Sports Car Challenge. But let's take a glance at the points. And Nick, the driver's points really just doesn't seem to change lately.
No, not really. A little bit of change up at the top, even though you don't see any change in position between Karl Modoff and Sean McBeth. That was only, I believe, a 9-point gap going into Imola. After that win by Modoff, his third of the season, it is now a 20-point gap over Sean McBeth. So with only, after tonight, we're only going to have 3 rounds left. McBeth really going to have to hustle because Modoff looking strong as ever, like you mentioned in your intro. Espinoza moved up to 3rd in that race. He passed over Christian Eisler, who drops to 4th, and Dan Ravito with a big move up last week at Imola. He moves up from 8th to 5th. But with that being said, he's still 48 points back from Modoff and 10 points back from Eisler. So lots of work for all of those guys left to do. We also have a teams championship that we've been watching this year. And we've mentioned a lot of times in the broadcast this year that Speedworks Racing Team seems to be everywhere. That being said, they only hold 3 of the top 5 spots. And of the 18 teams this year, all 4 of their teams are in the top 10. So they're having a great showing. It is the North team up at the top right now with McBeth and Ravito, just a pair of consistency there, a dynamic duo. The Coca Motoclar Racing team in second with Modoff and Clark. The SRT East team and the West team going to fill in 3rd and 4th. No change from last week at Imola. Team Bushfink Racing still going to be in 5th, 78 points back.
Today's race itself, as we take a glance at the race details, as we mentioned, we are in round 7, so it's starting to get down towards the end. That is not good news for anybody who hopes to catch Modoff. There's 4 different cars they can choose from in this series. You see them all listed there. And this is actually a 60-minute race. This is going to be slightly different, but there's still 1 pit stop on the cards for the drivers in this 60-minute race. They have restricted the fuel compared to what you can use in the real GTE cars. That's why they have the single pit stop in a 60-minute race. And they have an incident cap. You can get disqualified if you go over those 30. It's something to be wary of at a track like this. They have no spare car in case they accrue any sort of damage. Can't just flash it back perfectly. Once you take your pit, you've got to take your repairs if it's hurting you out on track. Watching Fernando Borda sitting in 8th position, but where my eyes have been is up at the top once more, because Eisler was up there for a long time, and then suddenly, on his first time lap, Karl Modhoff took the pole, and since then, Abner Acosta has also returned to form and got himself on the front row.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was a little surprised to see in practice before the broadcast started, Modhoff was only 5th quickest. He was about 0.5 of a second behind Flores and Montini and Eisler, but right now in qualifying, of course, Modhoff no problem finds his way back up to the top, with a couple of drivers still, I'm sure, yet to put their fastest lap in, but we'll have to keep an eye on that top ticker.
We just watched Modhoff start his first timed lap since the last one. Tyler Gilmet comes across the line and does not improve his lap time, just about half a second off. Another one to watch out for, Sean Macbeth, who seems to be the most consistent other than Karl Modhoff, our points leader. He's the only other driver to manage to finish in the top 5 in every single round so far. And I'm not sure that he's on a fast lap right now, judging by his lap time. But he sits in 5th. And indeed, you can see him going very slowly at the end of the lap. Is he backing this up, maybe getting the tires cooled down?
Quite possibly. Every little second counts here.
Fernando Borda crosses the line, but that one's not going to count for him. He sits in 8th place. Rem, who is down in 21st. Usually is a little higher than that. A 2:01.1 is going to improve him slightly, but not by a whole lot. He's certainly got room for improvement. The Canadian, you can see, is going to abandon his lap. Kenny Rodriguez as well, sitting P12. His last one not any faster than his 2-minute 6. So far, not too huge of a gap, frankly, between the entire field. 32 cars, and the lowest car to have put a time in here in qualifying is Mike Cray at 2.5 seconds off the pole sitter. So 2.5 seconds for 30-plus cars over 4 miles. That is very, very close.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I was actually just about to make a comment about that, too, with the tight gap between here. That kind of comes with the popularity of the track, I think. We see a similar kind of situation at tracks like Monza or Watkins Glen. Just the more popular tracks, people find a lot more rhythm and pace, and it tightens up the competitiveness, and we might see a surprise winner in that as well.
Modhoff upped his time, and Eisler hasn't responded yet. In fact, Eisler only has 1 timed lap in of his 4 qualifying laps he's put down. Mo Broughton obviously heading back to the pits and done for his qualifying, as he doesn't have enough time to get back out to start a hot lap. Looks like Thurman definitely not going to improve this one. He's going to get one last chance to come on by. Back to Borda one more time. He's still down in 8th position, the number 7 car. As a 2 flat 4. Let's see what this one is. It does not count. So he also will only get 1 more chance to try to put a timed lap in.
Seems like a lot of the drivers must be struggling with the off-tracks a little more than I had anticipated. There's a lot of runoff room here, but when you think of those notorious off-track circuits in iRacing, Road America just doesn't normally come to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Zach Hefner, who's gotten a win this season, is struggling here today. He's all the way down in 9th. Got himself another podium last week at Imola, but he's not looking too strong today. Mike Cray comes across and once again does not improve. Ooh, Modhoff is coming around now, and I think this is going to be it for him. He won't be able to cross the line in time. In fact, he might be our first to take the checkered flag here in qualifying. It's a 59.8 for his fastest lap. Less than a tenth faster than second place. Make that a little faster. 59.7. So he's got a tenth and some up on Macbeth, who abandons his lap. Eisler going to be the next closest to cross, and he's also deciding that he can't improve enough. Wow. Going to Federico Montini, who sits in 7th. See if anybody else coming to the line. I see Hugo Galaz is going to abandon his. Brett Thurman coming up. He's still down in 28th. Borda seems to be our next closest that might potentially have something for the top drivers. But he's all the way down in 8th position still, and he's a whole 6/10 off of Karl Modoff. That would be a humongous jump if he could manage to get those 6/10 tightened up.
Got a lot of momentum on the front stretch. See where this compares.
Across the line, it's a 2-flat-1, and that will put him up to 6, but unfortunately only as good as the 3rd row. There's Uribe, and Zach Hefner's now coming across all the way down in 10th. Really shocked by that as he comes across, and that looks a little bit more representative of the 1, 2, 3. He is now 4th. Who do we have left? Zube and Rodriguez coming together up and over the hump towards the start-finish line there. 13th and 14th. Zube going to abandon his last lap. So Rodriguez might be able to snipe him. Nope, he won't. It's a 2-flat-8.
Yeah, Justin Ram bumping up from 21st to 17th, though. A couple extra spots for him there.
But that's going to do it for our qualifying. That's all cars across the line. And we are now ready to go to the starting grid. Karl Modoff on the pole once again, but we saw in practice he wasn't looking so hot. Is his one-lap pace better than his race pace? We'll find out. Sean Macbeth is going to try to challenge him. Macbeth still winless this season, incredibly, despite a number of podiums and all top 5s. He starts from 2nd place. Abner Acosta, he's been close a few times and has shown a lot of pace. We'll see what he can do from 3rd. Zach Hefner has certainly been on a tear ever since he joined in. Not really in the points battle, but you never know. He'll be starting from 4th. Christian Eisler will be P5 at the drop of the green. Jorge Flores starts in 6th, and then behind him will be Fernando Borda in 7th. We'll be flanked by Andre Espinoza starting P8. Jean-Marc Tremblay is on the inside of row 5. Then it's Federico Montini rounding out your top 10.
11th and 12th are going to go to the 33 of Cristobal Valenzuela and the 913 of Leif Peterson. They're going to be followed by Tyler DeZube in 13th, Ken Rodriguez in 14th, and Pablo Uribe in his number 23 Ford will round out the top 15. He's going to be starting alongside Rodrigo Munoz in the number 9 car in 16th. Right behind them, it's going to be Justin Ram in the 88th machine in 17th, and the only Midwest driver in the field, Pete Mobrotten in 18th. Josh Daniels and Jerome Bertune in the 07 and the 217 will round out the top 20.
Daniel Rooney, who had a good fight with Christian Eisler last round, will start 21st. Tyler Gilmet will start 22nd. Then it's Maxi Sorella and P23. Corey Clark behind him in 24th, and then Joey Trungale in P25. Brett Thurman starts 26th position, followed by Manuel Paredes. Then it's James LeBlanc starting 28th, Takeshi Kita in 29th, and Lucio Vargas 30th. The last 2 drivers to get a time in are Hugo Galaz in 31st and Mike Cray in 32nd. Rodrigo Capoletto will not be racing today as he is not in the server. Everybody else is already lining up on the grid for the long pace lap here around Road America as they follow the Porsche pace car. So lots of places to pass. It's a stark contrast to what we saw at Imola. But based on what we've seen so far this season, Nick, I mean, can anybody challenge Modoff? It seems like at Imola he was back to his old form and just was untouchable.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about Modoff is that he's really good at these more traditional tracks, it seems, like Imola, like Sebring, and like Watkins Glen. Those were his 3 wins this year. It's the other tracks, Homestead, where he lost to Eisler, and then it was also Monza when he went in round 4 of the following round after that when he lost, and Spa. So a couple of tracks there that he just didn't have the pace this year. So it apparently is in reach. The only problem is that those drivers that we've seen win have not they haven't been nearly as consistent as some of these guys like Macbeth and Flores up here that have yet to win.
Certainly seems to be the case as they come out of turn 1 down towards 3, which I'm sure sounds weird because you can't really see it turn in there. Apparently, according to iRacing and other sources, that little kink there is considered some sort of turn. I'm as flummoxed as everybody else about that, but that's the way it is. They then rush their way down the moraine sweep towards turn 5, one of the most popular places to try and overtake. But how is the grip into that corner? Well, today, the track temperature at 90 degrees is somewhere in the middle, I'd say, compared to what we're used to on most races. Just 90 degrees on the track surface with 13-mile-an-hour winds that seem to be changing slightly. Could catch the drivers out. Not super humid here in the northern Midwest. They now, you can see, come down to that sharp left-hander that we will probably see a fair bit of action at as the race goes on. And up into the blind at turn 6 that Nick talked about, the double left-hander of 5 and 6. And more tricky corners with that crest. Then into some of the more technical portions here, Nick, the hurry downs. Now, I've had debates with people before because I feel like it's possible to get sneak attacks and passes here into 8, and others seem to say that it's not a really good opportunity for overtaking. What's your take on it?
I certainly don't think it's the best place in the whole track to get an overtake, but I think it is definitely possible. The problem is right here where you see them going through right now. If you get an overtake there, you're most likely going to have enough momentum, or too much momentum, I should say. You're kind of going to wash out here in the carousel, and it's really hard to hold down that outside line real consistently. So if you're going to get a pass made through the hurry downs, you're going to have to be really on your game because you got to hold it through here.
And then you got to hold it through the kink where the pace car is coming through right now. Get a nice onboard coming through here. It's it's almost a little bit terrifying just because this is where the woods start again, and you're suddenly rushing in, not just blind with those walls on either side, but you've got all the trees. It's just like you're going into a tunnel.
Yeah, absolutely, and gets a lot darker as well. Of course, we are running a little past 5:30 here in the virtual world, so sun might begin to set towards the end of the race.
We'll see. It's a 60-minute race, so it's slightly longer. That'll take us till a little bit after 6 p.m. It is set to the middle of May, is this race here in the virtual world. So I think by that point, sun should still be pretty decently up in the sky. Meanwhile, the Porsche pace car now leads them up towards the final corner, which will climb uphill to the main straight. Karl Modov will be given control as we see that pace car peel off into the pit lane. How soon does he take off? He's waiting, holding the pack as they all get checked up behind him, trying to stay as close as possible. And now he goes. Green flag is out here at round 7 at Road America. It's a fantastic start by Karl Modov. Gets a big jump on Macbeth, who immediately tries to cover off Acosta. Acosta goes the long way around up to the outside. He's a little bit deeper on the brakes. Sometimes you could see this get done from the long way. Not quite yet. They're going to stay side by side in this battle for second. Don't see any incidents in the background. And the battle continues as he almost runs Acosta off course. And they're still going at it as they hit the moraine sweep now, Nick.
What a crazy start there for Abner Acosta. He got boxed in, and you can still see him making some really bold moves in front of Zach Hefner and Flores behind him. Acosta trying to get everything he can as he's stuck on the outside once again of Macbeth.
Oh, and is this the second? It is Christian Eisler, you see, turned around on the very first lap. The same thing happened to Imola. Just got ran into and found himself facing the wrong way. We'll come back to the replay in a little bit. Karl Modov now stretching away by 1.3 seconds. Macbeth has managed to clear Acosta. They're single file. Acosta in third, Hef in fourth, and Flores in fifth. But they've lost touch, and that might be the death knell.
Yeah, tough start for a lot of guys back there, but you can see these top 5 cars strung together. We talked about the slipstream a little bit. Definitely will keep these cars strung together a little bit towards the beginning of the race.
Most everybody single file now that they're coming through the kink, although there's still plenty of close racing through the pack. They've now hit Canada corner. A few cars kicking up a little bit of dust. You can see the cloud cover coming over quite a bit. It's cooled the track down 3 degrees already. Up to the main straight. Modoff, he started it from the pole and he's going to lead the first lap. Sean Macbeth is trying his darndest to reel him in. He's got 2/10 off of him. While behind them, I think we had a problem with Kenny Rodriguez because he's losing position after position on my screen.
And that last set of turns for the leaders as well was really tough for Zach Hefner. He got really loose underneath the braking of Abner Acosta in front of him. He has fallen tremendously, and he's got a mirror full of Jorge Flores as well that wants to overtake him.
As we leave Rodriguez from his battle with, I believe that was LeBlanc, we come up back to Flores giving chase to Zach Hefner, and he's got a good slipstream coming down the moraine sweep once again into the downhill braking of turn 5. He brakes early though. I don't think he had anything underneath him this early in the race, so Hefner gets to keep P4 for the moment. Riding on board with the Ferrari as he gives chase, with the Porsche. They come into the long sweeping carousel, working their way towards the lowest part of the circuit, plunging down and down and down until they get to Canada corner. So despite my naysaying at the start, Macbeth is running down Modoff just a little bit, but not a whole lot. Since we don't have too much happening at the top, let's take this opportunity to look at the replay and what happened with that incident. I was going back to see one of the SRT drivers going wide at turn 5. You're going to see him out there out-braking himself. And then as I looked at that, it's a Ferrari. Not sure who it is. And then suddenly, well, we couldn't quite see it on that shot, but Eisler got tipped by somebody. In fact, he's since gone into the pits.
I think it was Andres Espinoza behind him. Well, Espinoza went wide, and then it was the BMW of Fernando Borda, actually, that came into Eisler, it looks like.
Oof. Both of them looking to split Eisler, and unfortunately, Borda being on the inside eventually ran out of track, and it was Eisler who paid the price. Interestingly, Borda's also come into the pits since then.
Not like he swung it wide unless he had some contact getting back on track. You can see the domino effect, just the stack up there. Jean-Marc Tremblay in the 927 Porsche took some heavy damage as well from that.
Yeah, I wonder if Borda just touched him just right, that it damaged his suspension, because you saw him going slow after the incident on the replay. As we come back to Macbeth now, we had a problem with Tyler Gilmette. He's down 25th, 26th, continuing to drop way back in the pack. This is in turn 5, and it's yet more cars coming together. Maxi Sorella tipped him around.
Yeah, it looks like Gilmette thought he was clear, tried to come back over on towards more of the racing line, towards that uphill turn 6, and just had a little too much BMW nose in his right rear.
Yeah, I almost kind of put that one on Tyler. But could have given a little bit more room as the track thinned out there with the curb. Oof, and around it goes. So that sends Gilmette down to 27th. Triple 5 car has a lot of work to do. Easier to lose a lot of positions having an incident this early in the race. Oh, and Rodriguez is off in a big way. This one looks like it also involved James LeBlanc. Almost a reverse of what we saw moments ago with Sorella. See LeBlanc in the orange Porsche go off, try to return to the track, and then Rodriguez, unfortunately, is where he wanted to be.
Yeah, it's one of the tightest parts of the whole track there. Just ran out of room, it looks like.
Didn't expect him to return as quickly as he did, I suppose. And that contact, that stopped the car really quickly. Rodriguez had to come into the pits due to that one. It is way too early for a scheduled stop. Let's head up to 4th place, where Hef still has Flores behind him. Jorge not been able to do anything on the 1, 2, 3, and they are being chased by Espinoza. Espinoza leaving something of a gap up to these two. There you can see him in the background as we ride on the diffuser of Hef.
Ooh, there's quite the traffic jam behind them. This is back 11th place. Cristobal Valenzuela, who has just gotten around a couple of these guys. Tyler DeZube, Pete Mobrotten back there. And they are just leading a freight train of cars.
Yeah, this goes all the way back to 18th with Corey Clark before you finally get a break in the traffic. And they come down and accordion together here into Canada Corner, but apparently they're struggling to try and make overtakes because nobody ducks out. We'll get something on the front stretch. It's a little bit of a longer straightaway, a little bit of more of a straightforward braking zone. DeZube continuing to ride in the wake of Valenzuela. Up and across the start-finish line. DeZube is definitely closing, getting ever closer. But he starts to lift. Once again, not looking to challenge now, so he'll stay in 12th position.
Yeah, I believe Valenzuela passed DeZube a couple laps ago, so DeZube looking to take that position back.
You know, I wonder how many of these drivers are riding in this line thinking fuel. We didn't really talk too much about fuel strategy, but it is a very fast track and also a stop-start track. That tends to be a recipe for sucking up a lot of gas.
Yeah,
whoa!
And also,
DeZube, where is he going? My goodness. Down into turn 5, outbrakes himself, and in the process loses just about every single position in that train, but one, it looks like.
yeah, it looks like he's going to slide in front of Corey Clark and get behind Josh Daniels as we take a look at this again. This was out of nowhere. Wow.
Just missed his brake marker, knew it early, and took evasive action.
Definitely caught you and me both off guard, I'd say.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he was making a pass from a long ways back or what. Well, that puts him all the way down to P17 when he was 12th before. They're back to Canada Corner once again. As up at the front, Valenzuela finds his mirrors replaced with Pete Mobrotten instead.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned the fuel anyway. That maybe these guys are just kind of riding in a line. Another factor into that is the fact that this is a 20-minute longer race than they're used to. This is 60 minutes tonight, and the fuel limit isn't expanded any. It's still 65%, I believe. So, you know, a lot of these drivers probably don't know what to expect in terms of fuel conservation and strategy tonight.
Because I believe the windows usually opens at about 15 minutes in, which would be 30 minutes left. So it could be awful tight for that one-stop strategy here today. We'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, we often see that window close with about 15 minutes left in a 40-minute race. So, yeah, that's about 5 minutes short of the race on a one-stop strategy. They might need to be careful.
This train of cars comes down to turn 5 one more time. Not seeing anybody really close enough to attack. I take that back. Rame with Rooney on the outside. And Rooney can't seal the deal. Slots back into 15th place behind Justin. Boy, ever since the start of the race, I don't think we've seen the sun once. It's all the way down to 84 degrees on track, and it has certainly been a gloomy spring here in the Midwest.
Yeah, it's got it listed as mostly cloudy right now, and I was wondering before the race started if that would mean maybe seeing the sun peek out a few times, but looks like just the cloud cover has not played nicely with those chances.
Jump ahead of this group because we've got another one very tightly packed together. Peterson, Jean-Marc Tremblay, and Uribe are all fighting for 8th. You see them heading around Canada Corner. And I think, are they actually being reeled in by this second group? I think they are.
I think
you
so
see them
as
very
well,
close
yeah.
behind. Well, that is going to make things all the more interesting, especially knowing that if Valenzuela has the pace, could get a little bit frantic. Peterson, in the meantime, you could see closing in on Jean-Marc Tremblay, seeing if he could take 9th away, and he's going to go around the outside into turn 1. Tremblay doesn't really have an answer, and in fact, he's going to brake a little early and slot in behind the Porsche.
Yeah, that was a rough lap for Jean-Marc Tremblay there. He was losing touch of Uribe quite severely. It was about a 2-minute, 3-second lap as well for Tremblay.
Forward with Tremblay. Can't see it from this angle in the mirrors, but Valenzuela is now under a second behind him and continuing to close. Ahead of Tremblay, see Peterson locking up the brakes in that downhill braking zone. Doesn't lose the spot. He's obviously pushing.
Yeah, it's probably just overdriving a little bit, trying to reel back Pablo Uribe, who has run away a little bit from this pack of cars.
Down through the hurry downs into the carousel. Let's watch from Valenzuela's perspective. He's got it down to 7 tenths now, so in less than half a lap, 2 more tenths knocked off. Tremblay's really going to have to be looking in his mirrors pretty soon. I think I'm seeing a little bit of the sun finally coming out. Down through Canada Corner. Once again looking very strong. Valenzuela 4 tenths of a second. In fact, he might have a chance to attack on the front stretch. Let's stay with this battle and see what Cristobal can do. The Hispano-American driver chasing the Canadian up the hill, over the hump. He's going to get the slipstream, but he doesn't look like he's closing quick enough.
Yeah, he's definitely closing, just like you said, not quick enough. He takes a little peek to the inside there, has to duck back in line, and that little peek there kind of caused an awkward turn 1 for him. Might lose a little bit of touch here to Tremblay.
A couple more feet forward, and I think he maybe could have had an actual attack. So, down in the rain sweep, watching from the rear of Tremblay. Here he comes again, Valenzuela. Gaining, but then they have to hit the brakes and slow up for 5 and just nothing doing.
See if he has the pace in the more technical portions of the track as well. He's definitely got the slipstream in the faster portions, but if he can, optimize these tighter sections of the track, I think he's going to be able to get around him no problem here in just a few moments.
Let's see. Might have slightly different wing settings on the car, different setups. Maybe Valenzuela fast in a straight line, but having a tough time in the technical portions. Maybe Tremblay is the opposite. And didn't really see much of a gain from Valenzuela coming through the technical sections. As they hit the kink now, it's going to get fast once again. If he gains, I think we're starting to get hints on the full picture.
Yeah, it didn't look like much of an advantage until that little straightaway, like you said, for Valenzuela. So yeah, I think Tremblay looking very nice through the infield, more technical portions of this track as well. He's just got to hold him off defensively on the straightaways.
It's going to be very difficult to ask because here they come again onto the front stretch, and Valenzuela is actually very close this time. he could have a great opportunity. Look at him get into the slipstream, using the draft, closing in on Tremblay. We ride on board with Valenzuela. He ducks in for the second time in 2 laps. This time he's much farther alongside, tries to outbrake him. Tremblay shows him the door, and he keeps him behind. That was confident stuff from the 927.
Yeah, I did not expect that to work, and look at the big run he gets down through there as well. That's going to be good for Tremblay on this straightaway, I think, because Valenzuela nowhere near as close as he was last time. Of course, as soon as I say that, he really starts to reel him in.
That car's coming, and he's going to be given the inside as Tremblay really can't hold it off this time. Onto the brakes. He's still looking pretty good, but eventually Valenzuela manages to get through. Broaden takes a think about trying to overtake into that 11th spot. Ooh, he's going to have another think about it as they come through 7.
Yeah, bold stuff there from Broaden behind him. And look at this.
Oh, no.
And Broaden with Munoz.
Munoz tips him around, and Rooney and Rame do a beautiful job of sneaking through there without making contact. Let's watch that replay again.
All of a sudden, that line of cars had tightened up again with the battle between Tremblay and Valenzuela. And Broaden brought the momentum, Munoz brought the momentum, and they just kind of met in the middle there.
I don't know. You think, was it a dive, or did he shut the door when he had a legitimate nose in? Because it looked really tough to call from that angle.
It looked like a little bit of each, to be honest. I think there was a little bit of aggression and a little bit of defense.
Ahead of him, he's got Rooney fighting Munoz. That could be a great chance to get 2 spots back right away. Rooney, in the meantime, is definitely not looking in the mirrors. He's looking ahead and using that draft to try and overtake Munoz across the start-finish line to start lap 10. Rooney just about dead even. Now a nose ahead into the braking. Stronger on the brakes on top of it. And he gets it done. Rame watching, looking to see if he can get in there. And nothing doing. Don't think this one is over yet. Look at them coming down the moraine sweep. And Justin starting to size up Munoz.
It doesn't look like Munoz got any front end damage from that as Rame peeks to the inside there. He's going to have the advantage a little bit, but Munoz really strong on the outside on the corner exit as well.
Porsche really strong under acceleration as we finally get some sunshine coming down through the hurry downs. And all this fighting has allowed Daniel Rooney to start to pull a gap, and then he threw it all the way in turn 8 and went a little bit wide. They're regaining once again.
Yeah, this entire line of cars, they just don't want to leave each other. They keep closing in on him.
Whoa! All the way off track for Munoz. Doesn't spin out in the grass. He's got to be thanking his lucky stars for that one. Still nobody attempting anything down into Canada corner. And they're also now bringing in Josh Daniels and Brett Thurman behind them. That is 16th and 17th. About 10 more minutes before we reach that pit window, that very small, we expect, pit window. Starting on board with Munoz. Up ahead, that is Daniel Rooney. He's managed to pull a gap of about half a second. Behind Justin Ram, getting awful close though. In fact, that was an excellent run off at turn 3. And Nick, I think this is going to be one of the best opportunities for Justin.
I would agree. He's not looking too aggressive, and look at this. Munoz even going a little bit defensive, but out of nowhere, Rame takes a dive. He's going to be able to hold the line. So does Munoz on the outside. They meet in the middle. Who's going to have it in turn 6? It looks like Rame on the inside is going to be able to clear the number 9.
Justin sailed in there. Almost sold him a dummy as he stayed on the racing line until way late. We're going to ride on board with Broaden now. He lost positions to Munoz before when they made contact.
Yeah, Broaden had a front row seat for that, as you see here through the carousel. Munoz trying to get a run on him to get through the kink and down into Canada corner. I don't know, that 88 of Justin Rame looking awfully strong right here.
Yeah, they're all starting to stretch apart. And as we're watching this, I don't want to leave this. I do want to update our audience on the battle for the lead. Modoff has been pulling away from Macbeth tiny bit by tiny bit now that it is 3 seconds. And then the closest battle up at the top is actually for fourth and fifth between Hef and Flores. But we haven't really seen a change of position for that yet. Coming on to the front stretch is Rame, leading the train of cars. Munoz, Broaden, Daniels, Thurman, and Clark.
Looks like maybe a change for position ahead of him. Dan Rooney was taking a peek on the inside of Jean-Marc Tremblay down into turn 1. He wasn't able to get it done, though. Tremblay really strong once again through the first couple of turns.
Let's stay with this, but I'm looking at who our big movers are, and amazingly, we hadn't caught that Uribe has gone up from 15th on the grid to 8th out there on track. So as a little look to the inside from Rooney, trying to overtake Tremblay into turn 5. Can Tremblay gun it off the corner? He's trying. Porsche versus Porsche. But I think a nose ahead into turn 6 is finally going to get it done after 2 corners for the number 77.
And that is going to move Dan Rooney up into 11th. And you mentioned the big movers with Pablo Uribe going 15th to 8th. How about Daniel Rooney himself? Just went from 21st up to 11th. Great run for him so far.
Wow, that is really impressive, honestly. And he did get a qualifying in at a 2-flat 9. As they come out of the kink. 5 more minutes before we can see whether or not drivers can come into the pits. Let's give a little screen time up to Macbeth, our second place driver. Acosta is relatively close and has been, but it's been hovering a little over half a second that the 25 just can't seem to close the gap.
Yeah, it's been this much of a gap for essentially the entire race, all 12 and some change laps that they've run so far. Acosta, though, I don't know if he's going to be too aggressive once he gets to Macbeth. I think he's just trying to stay within tow of Macbeth and just position himself for that pit stop, and then he's going to attack later on, I think.
Watch from Acosta's view, looking ahead, trying to chase down Macbeth. Yet again, we see how many of these SRT cars are flooding the top 10. Macbeth in second place, Hefner in 4th, Flores 5th, Espinoza 6th. And is that all they have? Just outside the top 10, they've got a few more. Tremblays in 12th, Rame is in 13th.
And you mentioned Hefner, Flores, and Espinoza, 4th, 5th, and 6th. They're actually, it looks like, kind of working together right now, all in a line in a pack by themselves, not being too aggressive at all with each other, or maybe just saving a little bit of fuel and, once again, positioning themselves well for that pit stop. They've got a big gap on back to Montini.
Yeah, it is 3 seconds from Espinoza to Montini. Here we see him driving all by his lonesome through Canada corner, the number 5 Porsche. Federico, one of those that's a little overdue for a podium. This was not the race that I was expecting, if I'm honest, Nick. I figured we'd see a lot more draft passes and drivers find it easy to get by. And as soon as I say that, Tyler Gilmette had a problem. Oh, this was in the kink, actually. He's fallen all the way to 26th.
Looks like all by himself as well.
Oh, but I think it caused some problems for Tyler DeZube. So let's watch the initial issue with Gilmette, and then let's watch the onboard from DeZube. There you can see he's the orange car that tries to take evasive action and unfortunately gets caught out.
Ooh,
I'm not sure who the other one was that had to take a dodge. That was Mike Cray.
And DeZube immediately has taken it behind the wall. He looks to be done for the day.
Excuse me, it was Mike Cray, and it was also Takeshi Kita. This is the view from DeZube. Gilmette did a really good job keeping the car off the wall.
Yeah, certainly not the result DeZube would like. Our winner back at Monza, round 4 or 5.
That is a real shame. So as we come back up to the battle for second place, Macbeth now starting to push Acosta back slightly. It was hovering about 6 or 7 tenths. It's now up to 8 tenths between them.
So the question I have here is about this pit window is it going to be big enough for anyone like Abner Acosta to try that undercut maneuver and try to get in there a little bit before and jump Macbeth? We'll have to see.
Had a change for position. Pete Motrotten taking advantage of Munoz going wide out of the final corner. Out of the Canada corner. Let's take a look at the replay on that.
We haven't seen too many passes down in Canada corner today.
When it wasn't even into it, it was coming out of it. See,
yeah,
just dips the wheel in the grass and slips on through. So come back live. That puts Mo Broughton into 13th now because we got a couple takers for the pits, including Daniel Rooney and Lucio Vargas.
Dan Rooney already rolling out of his box. He was really in the thick of traffic as well, so this is going to be interesting to see where he cycles out. Really essentially coming in by himself.
You know, it might be a wise choice if he felt like he was being held up by that traffic. So are we going to see more drivers coming in? I'm watching our leader to see if Karl Modoff decides to enter. It's been 3 wins out of 6 races for Karl Modoff. A 50% rate is pretty good, which is shocking to say that it's not the best record for Karl Modoff compared to the previous season where it was 100%. So he stays out. Macbeth does as well. So does Acosta. Hefner stays out. Flores stays out. Espinoza, Montini. Everybody trying to stretch the fuel as long as they can.
Yeah, I bet we might see more pitters towards the middle of the field. If we take a back look at about 15th place, see if anyone comes in. Looks like Josh Daniels is going to head on into the pits, but all by himself.
Yeah, he was in a pretty close fight of his own.
Maxi Sorella in as well.
Now past the halfway point of this race.
Looks like Jerome Bertum going to be the third and possibly final car to come in this lap. Oh, he kind of skids into the pits, hard on the brakes.
And you know, one thing we haven't mentioned, I don't think, is we talked about the fuel strategy and hoping that everybody can make it on one stop, which it looks like right now. If anybody, for whatever reason, does have to take a second stop, this is certainly a track where you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, it's a big track. It's just that much more ground to lose and that much more time to try to make up, and especially to have to do that late in the race. Not going to be pretty, especially, I mean, for your result in general, but also for your points day as well.
As we come back to Broaden and Munoz, the two eternal friends, continue this fight. They're just behind Tremblay, who sits in P12. And if they start fighting too much, don't forget Corey Clark behind them. Clark didn't have the cleanest of races last week at Imola. So far, not doing too bad, considering he went from 24th on the grid to now P15.
Well, and it looks like Sean Macbeth has come into the pits. But also dealing with connection issues. I saw him duck in and then blink out, it looks like. So hopefully he gets that sorted out.
Yeah, wow, this will be the first race that Macbeth might not finish in the top 5 because he's still out of it. We'd show you, but there's nothing to show. Oh, there he is.
He's probably in his stall right now.
I want to say this is the first time I've seen a driver having this sort of connection issue in the pit lane this way. So as we come back to Hefner, he's still got Flores behind him. This is the closest we've seen Flores in a while, but Flores not willing to risk it.
I can report also that Eisler has served his pit stop. He's out of the pits into turn 1 already. Looks like they were the only ones. Mike Cray also in the box. I saw Macbeth on the way out, but looks like still hasn't connected.
Well, looks like we've overhyped the fuel saving a little too much, as it is solidly 26 minutes into the race. Most drivers will have no issues getting to the end unless they short fuel it. So I don't think any of the stuff we've been seeing has been waiting games. I think this is all legitimate battling, attempting to try and get enough of a tow to offer the chance to overtake, but very few have managed to do that.
I see more battles with Jean-Marc Tremblay.
To be followed by Broaden and Munoz, as well as Corey Clark. So down, oh, and there's an attempt up the inside. Pete Broaden shoving Jean-Marc Tremblay out wide at Canada corner. Tremblay has to defend on Rodrigo Munoz, who then finds the chain reaction moving to him with Corey Clark spying a chance. And Clark gets a magnificent run. Look at it. Oh, and that's exactly when Munoz decides to pit. He is going to follow the likes of Tremblay into the lane.
Yeah, that was a good time for them to come into the pits there, a hard battling. The last thing you want to have happen is have your race end early because of that. Good time to duck out of the action.
Right now, our highest pitter is Danny Rooney. And I think he might actually re-inherit it. No, I take that back. Sean Macbeth is our highest pitter. He's back out on course, but that seemed like it might have been a long stop. I'm looking to see. No, cone to cone. It looks about right. We'll find out once the other drivers pit. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was about a 3-second gap back from Modoff that Macbeth had. Now that it's Acosta in second, it's about a 3.8-second gap. And you know, that's not an outrageously large cushion that Modoff has, especially compared to what we've seen him be able to accumulate in previous races.
Our leader's coming around the final corner. And we're wondering, we need to go away from him because Jorge Flores with some issues. Oh, and this involved another car in the kink. It was
Hefner.
LeBlanc was the one he was trying to avoid.
Oh, yeah. Looks like Hefner actually squeaked through there. Yeah, it was James LeBlanc sitting sideways on the track.
And unfortunately, that wasn't just because that's where he wound up. He was trying to get it turned around and picked a horrible time. This is LeBlanc's accident that started all of this. The Kink taking another victim. Ugh.
And it looks like they didn't make contact either. Just Flores losing grip, trying to get around him like that. Probably had to jerk the wheel at the last second pretty hard.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what happened to Dzube as well. I believe it was Dzube that we saw taking avoiding action. There was another car in a similar situation. Didn't make contact, just unfortunately came around. Flores currently running in second, but is yet to take his stop, and the severe damage is very apparent on the front of that Porsche.
Yeah, that could have been even uglier than it already was. I noticed Federico Montini and Pablo Uribe also have to take to the grass there. They got through cleanly, just picked up an off track.
We've had everyone pit except Acosta and Flores, and we know Acosta was chasing for quite a while. Maybe he did save some fuel. Flores, not sure. I would think so, because I believe he was behind Hefner for quite a bit of the race.
And just being involved in that accident as well, Flores, I'm not sure if he wanted to pit or if he just wanted to stay out on track one more lap, maybe see how much damage his car needed to have repaired.
This is Karl Modoff, who sits in third, but will re-inherit the lead, we're pretty certain. Abner Acosta taking a stop with 21 minutes left to go.
See where Modoff is.
Coming out of Bill Mitchell Bend into the final corner. There's a 16-second stop for Modoff. Acosta has just hit his stall. It's 10 seconds now. So we watch Modoff scream on by past the pit exit just as Acosta is coming out. That'll be easy pickings for the number 48. It has been his race to control ever since the green dropped.
You know what, though? I think Acosta may have closed in just a little bit there. Had about a 2-second shorter stop.
I think you're right.
And even in the pit lane, it was about 3 seconds shorter overall.
Well, we do think that he saved due to that. So maybe that's what caught him some time. That's just James LeBlanc getting off track, letting him through. That cuts it down to less than 2 seconds from P1 to P2. But that is our whole field that has pitted. Let's run through the top 10 real quick. This is on board with your leader, Karl Modoff. He hasn't led every single lap, but that's only due to pit stops. He started it on the pole. Otherwise, he's just been pulling away since the green dropped. Abner Acosta is now in second place. And that is after starting in third. Really wasn't there for much of the race. A little bit of luck fell on Acosta's side. That's because Sean Macbeth, who did return in third place, was having all kinds of connection problems. Maybe had a slightly long stop compared to others around him. So the 252 rounds out the podium for the moment. And if you go back to fourth, Hefner has finished on the podium, I believe, every single round he's been out there right now, if I'm going over my stats correctly. But that streak may end today. He's sitting in fourth, and he's got 8.5 seconds up to Macbeth. I do not think that that is likely. He'll be able to close that in 18 minutes. Andre Espinoza is the one behind him, rounding out the top 5, having started in 8th. This has been I want to say a quiet run, but Espinosa's had a few contacts here and there, and maybe he will find some words from his fellow competitors when he finishes the race. Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. Behind them, Federico Montini actually in a little bit of a battle, or maybe a potential battle here in a little while if Pablo Uribe closes in. They're running 6th and 7th right now. They've both had some pretty fantastic races. They've had some close calls, but for the most part, overall, progression has been made for both the 5 car and the 23. Montini started 10th. He's up to 6th, and you mentioned earlier, Joe, Pablo Uribe being one of the big movers of the day. He started 15th, and he was up to 8th, make that 7th now, after the problems with Jorge Flores. Speaking of Jorge Flores, he is behind them, actually behind Leif Peterson, who is sitting in 8th. A little bit of a battle here. It looks like Peterson actually just getting around Flores for that position. Back in 10th, looks like Cristobal Valenzuela holding down the fort as well, I can report.
Valenzuela was at the head of a train for a while, but no more. In fact, I think that train has left the station because it's rain behind him and he's got 2.5 seconds to try to make up. Then it's about the same gap back to Danny Rooney. "17 minutes left on the clock. Ever since Acosta came out, what kind of laps has he been doing? His last one to put on the board is a 2:01.4 compared to Modov doing a 2:01.2. So tantalizingly close for the number 25, but Modov continues to just pull the football away. He says, calm down a lot here at the end of this race. Certainly defying all our predictions of a draft race taking place and drivers building trains up, holding with each other, trying to play some trickery with the strategy and the racecraft out there. But no, it's been one of the more straightforward races I've ever seen here at Road America.
Absolutely. It not only caught us off guard with being, playing out that way, I think it caught a lot of these mid-pack, even late top 10 drivers off guard, who I was mentioning earlier in the race, just being very conservative. They'll be aggressive, make up spots later. They might not have that opportunity to make up spots with 15 minutes left.
Yeah, I'd say that those chances are slipping through their fingers. Is this Uribe that we're watching right now? One of our climbers? Yes, it is. Just behind Federico Montini. We're going to watch from the Ford's view up ahead on the Porsche. From under the bridge towards the kink. No more victims this time, hopefully. Nope, they are both cleanly through.
Pablo Uribe is one driver this season that's honestly really impressed me improvement-wise. He sits back in 25th in the points, and a little bit of a move there around Montini.
Yeah, Montini, another one that went wide at Canada, had his momentum interrupted, and Uribe just took advantage. This will be a great return for Acosta, at least. He has another second place over at Spa. And then, other than that, he has not been on the podium at all this season.
Yeah, he's only had 2 starts this season, 3 including this race. He's back 21st in the points, which, quite honestly, quite impressive when you have 46 drivers being scored overall. If you only start twice, you're up to 21st. You've had 2 good races.
That's for sure. So going to Mo Broughton. This is a little tussle with Corey Clark as they come out of 3, and both of them using the track all the way up to its limit. Clark, unfortunately, not using enough of the grip, and he falls back from broaden.
Looks like I can report that very early in the race, Christian Eisler ran into some problems we were talking about. He has retired for the day, it looks like, unfortunately. He was 31st and 16 laps down. It looks like he's thrown in the towel.
Yeah, I was going to say, he realized there's nothing that he could try and make up. Now, Jorge Flores is in the pits again.
Oh, he went off track. This looks like in a very peculiar spot. Was this down in turn 3?
Turn 3, yeah. And I wonder if he had a hardware error, a software error, something. The car went off, and it almost looked like he just lost steering.
Yeah, and I mean, he also had damage from before, maybe, so even if it wasn't a hardware issue, he may have just gotten up on that curbing and lost it with some suspension damage.
Starting to see a few drivers fall by the wayside now. So Flores, Bertome, Dzube, Eisler, and Capoleto. I believe Borda is also sitting in pit lane, unable to do anything. This is your leader, Carl Modoff. He's responding to Abner Acosta. It is now 2 seconds between them. You see the gap on your screen. They've pulled away from third place Macbeth by a pretty good margin. It is 7 seconds from Acosta to Macbeth.
And again, remember, that's actually those gaps have tightened up after the pit stops as well, because it was about a 4-second gap in between Modoff and Acosta. And I believe it was about 9 seconds in between Acosta and Hefner, everyone behind them. But now that's Macbeth in third, 6 seconds behind him.
Well, it is still 9.5 from Macbeth to Hef. Got to give credit to the 1, 2, 3. Even though he's not going to finish on the podium, he will look like he's at least going to be finishing in fourth. Someone to keep an eye on next season as we watch Uribe in his little battle. This is with Federico Montini, the number 913 car. Excuse me, the number 5 machine.
Trying to regain that position that Uribe stole from him down into Canada corner just a handful of laps ago. This is on track for Uribe to be his best finish of the season. He had a 7th last week. Running 6th right now. He's moving forward.
Well, that'll be a great result for Uribe. He's one who definitely seems to be improving. We watched him, I want to say, come in more mid-pack, lower mid-pack, and now running in the top 10 with the big dogs. Valenzuela back in 9th place with Justin Rame hounding him at this point. Justin right under the gearbox as they come down to the turn 5. And poke his nose out. See if anything can be done. Is he strong enough on the brakes? Sometimes drivers have been able to use that outside, but not today. Give the number 88 P9.
And he might have pressure from Dan Rooney here in a second, who's behind him.
As we watch Rooney, gosh, 21st and now possibly a top 10 on the cards. We don't usually do a driver of the race feature, but if we had one, I feel like Rooney would be it today.
He's done a fantastic job, not only of moving forward through the field, but staying out of trouble as well. So much of the attrition that we saw, and we haven't seen too much of it, but what we have seen of attrition, this evening tonight, it's been in that mid-pack, right in the thick of where Dan Rooney's been running all night.
Out of Canada corner and through Bill Mitchell Bend. All three kind of stuck where they are. Rame leading Valenzuela, leading Rooney. Eight minutes left in this race now, and the time is ticking down. I believe last time by that Modoff passed, we have 5 laps to go. Poor Hefner is certainly dropping off of Macbeth. It is now over 10 seconds that the gap has between P3 and P4.
Oh, Dan Rooney in trouble, it looks like.
Oh, and after all the good work that he had put in, this was another turn 3 incident. Let's take a look at the replay. It went sort of the opposite direction that we saw with Flores.
Just kind of hooked it over to the right, and that was probably better for him. There's a lot of runoff there. Well, honestly, on both sides of the track, but especially on the right side there, a big open field for him to slide through. So no contact with a wall or any tire barriers or anything.
It does lose him positions, though. He's down to 14th, unfortunately. And that driver that he is battling with is for position. That is Rodrigo Munoz in the number 9. What happened to Modoff? Modoff just lost the lead.
Oh, the last
Modoff made a
turn.
mistake. Yeah. Was he put off
goodness.
by Guillemette ahead of him?
He was quite a ways ahead of him, but yeah, I mean, he could have been put off by him, just his rhythm or his braking point or something. Wow.
Credit to Acosta. He kept Modoff honest this whole race long, and that put him in the position to sneak a win. This is the replay from another angle.
Very rarely do we see a mistake like that from Karl Modoff, but Acosta right there to capitalize on it, and Acosta's still having to work for it because Modoff is still sticking with him.
A couple times that we have seen Karl make mistakes, he has recovered and fought hard to retake the lead and done it in a number of cases. So right now, Abner Acosta will need some incredible defense. Does he have what it takes? It's half a second between them. Acosta and the black machine that you see, the number 25. The BMW out there on course. And then Modoff is the blue Porsche on screen. Wait for that to get a little bit more tense because behind them, Espinoza suddenly under threat from Uribe.
We've been mentioning Uribe this whole broadcast, how amazing this run up through the field has been, from 15th up to maybe even a top 5. If he can get around Andres Espinoza in the 87 Ferrari.
This is just incredible stuff. Watch the replay from Uribe. Excuse me, watch the onboard from Uribe as they climb the hill, trying to dodge and bob and weave to break that draft. That forces Pablo around the outside of turn 1. Espinoza isn't brave enough on the brakes and slamming the door at the apex. Pablo is now in the top 5. Great stuff. And while that was happening, we might want to get a replay because we had a side-by-side move through the kink. I'm trying to find the drivers that involved. was Munoz. Looks like it was Munoz and Thurman. Poor Munoz found himself being overtaken by Tremblay. And actually, it was a defense, if anything. Looks like we won't get the replay up. It was a brilliant move by Rodrigo to keep 15th place from Thurman on the outside of the kink, too wide. That battle still going on. You can see on screen. Let's stick with this battle, but to report the point situation, what this does for Modov is leading by 20 points, but he hasn't lost out to Macbeth. Macbeth is still behind him on track, so Macbeth will still lose in the points chase to Karl Modov, but the damage will be a little bit more limited. It's not really what I think Macbeth was hoping for, but I guess he'll take what he can get.
Yeah, definitely better than what it would have been if Modov had racked up another win and Macbeth was stuck there with another podium finish in third.
Just on screen, we saw off course, I believe that was Munoz in his Porsche, once again at the kink. Somehow kept it from spinning out, but we've gone back to the battle between Cray and Vargas.
Two drivers that have had a pretty quiet day running back in the middle of the field. I think we've seen Cray get through a little bit of trouble tonight, but Lucio Vargas with a very quiet night.
Let's see if he's got a run here. They come through the kink down towards Canada Corner. He's close enough to be getting a tow, but it's not enough of a tow as they come to the braking zone, and Cray is going to be staying ahead in 21st for now.
Oh, it looks like Cray goes off.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. I looked away at the wrong time. So, Canadian driver has trouble with his corner namesake. Up at the front, I wondered if maybe we had spoke too soon with Modov. Oh, Modov actually struggling right now. He was, for a long time, 7/10 behind Acosta, but now that's gone up to over a second as Modov went deep into Canada Corner. Strange that suddenly the 48's car just looks a little out of sorts.
Wondering if he abused the tires a little bit more than he's used to with the 60-minute race. I mean, of all people, you wouldn't expect that out of Modov, but still not quite used to it.
So he could still do something, but it's the white flag. So he's got to really have some incredible pace, hope for maybe a little mistake from Acosta to open the door, and then execute. But the more corners they go through, the fewer of those opportunities that will present themselves. Acosta holding it about 1.2 seconds, so we jump back to Clark and Rooney. Clark leading in P12. The main straight. Ooh, this is a great view looking back as we give the tow to Danny Rooney. Getting bigger and bigger on the screen. I think they're coming up to the braking zone here. Is he brave enough to send it in? Not quite this time.
And a good recovery for Rooney as well. We were watching him battle for a top 10 position earlier. Had that big off track, lost 4 or 5 spots, and now trying to go back through.
Oh, and was that Clark having an off at turn 3? It was indeed, it looks like. So that's going to let Rooney through. But let's go up to the leaders because they're getting pretty close to the end. And it is Acosta, who is now another 10th up ahead of Modov. What happened at the end of this race to the 48? He had it in an iron vice-like grip, and it looked like he wasn't going to let go. And then suddenly, with just 2 laps to go, 3 laps to go, it vanishes for him. As Abner Acosta is going to come up the hill and take the victory here at Road America Modoff settles for second place, and Sean Macbeth follows them a distant third.
Looks like Macbeth going to come home for third. Hefner fourth. And it looks like Pablo Uribe, man, hats off to him to hold off Espinoza at the end and take a top 5.
He wasn't that far behind Hef as well.
Yeah, he was closing in on him as well.
There was a possible fourth at just a few more laps. Espinoza 6th, Montini 7th. Peterson, how about Peterson? This is a great race from Leaf with an 8th place. This is definitely what we've become accustomed to for the 913. And it's a 9th spot. Valenzuela beats Mo Broughton home. And then Rudy, who was fighting with Clark on the final lap, overtakes him and manages to get himself a 12th spot. Clark, unfortunately, moves down to 13. Saw some good fighting with Munoz, and he will come home in P16. Daniel 17. Last car on the lead lap, I believe, is going to be Paredes. Everybody looks to be pretty far apart from one another except for 20th and 21st. That's Vargas and Cray. That one looks like it should not be a contest to the line. Cray is going to follow home Vargas. Paredes is actually out of fuel. No, I think he's able to make it to the end. He looked a little slow there. Anyways, as we close up here with the last of the cars crossing the line, the sun slowly sets, but the broadcast is not over. We've got the unofficial results coming up, as well as driver interviews. But before that, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Welcome back to Road America here at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. The Precision Racing League just finished round 7 And we thought that it was going to be just another same old story, the way that Karl Modov streaked into the distance for most of this race. Acosta, though, he never gave up, and like a dog just holding on and not willing to let go, as soon as Modov made a mistake, he took advantage. Acosta with his first victory. We were just talking about that this race, that he is a little bit overdue. Karl Modov is in P2 after all is said and done, but unfortunately, for those hoping for a close points battle, he will extend his gap over Sean Macbeth, who finished third behind him. Zach Hefner, for the first time this season, does not finish on the podium. Still a fourth place, and I have to say that I really can't put down the effort that he's done in the first few races that Zach has shown up. Pablo Uribe impressed both Nick and I, going from 15th to 5th, with Andre Espinoza just behind him in tow in P6. Federico Montini, this is actually a pretty good run, I'd say, for the number 5 car, finishing 7th place, and Leif Peterson taking 8th. Justin Rame will finish 9th, and Cristobal Valenzuela rounds out your top 10.
Pete Mo brought in a great race for him as well, coming from 18th to 11th. Dan Rooney, 21st to 12th, one of the hard chargers, as well as Corey Clark, who went a little bit unheard of tonight. He was in that long strand of cars, but just kind of towards the rear. Regardless of that, a fantastic race for him tonight, 24th up to 13th. Jean-Marc Tremblay ran into some late race trouble. He fell from 9th to 14th. Brett Thurman in the 69 car rounds out the top 15 after starting way back in 26th. 16th goes to Rodrigo Munoz, who was battling with Josh Daniels in 17th. Takeshi Kita, Joey Trungale, and Hugo Galaz will round out your top 20.
21st goes to Lucio Vargas, and then Mike Cray, who both of them in a pretty close fight towards the end. Cray finishes 22nd. Manuel Paredes, the last driver on the lead lap, finishes 23rd. Tyler Gilmet, this was a bit of a sloppy one for Tyler. He finishes 24th and a lap down. James LeBlanc as well had some issues and was 25th. Maxi Sorella, similar story, except he was 7 laps down in 26th spot. Jorge Flores, damage sent him well towards the back after running up and at the top 10. And he winds up 27th. Jerome Bertome at DNF today, 28th. Kenny Rodriguez, 29th. Tyler DeZube, 30th. Christian Eisler. Oh, man, when can he get himself a break in this series? Another incident on the first lap, and then later his race was ended, and he winds up 31st. Fernando Borda, 32nd. Rodrigo Capoleto was a did not start today. We've got Karl Modov ready to talk to us, and I think this one should be enlightening. Karl, this whole thing seemed to be under your control all the way until a few laps to go, and then suddenly one off changed the complexion of this. What happened?
Yeah, I thought it was going well, but towards the end, after the pit stop, Abner came out about 2 seconds ahead of me. I think he probably saved some fuel running behind Macbeth. So he closed the gap, and then it was like if I ran a perfect lap, we would run the same time, but then he'd catch me a 10th. So he was kind of eating away at the gap, and then when I got close to Tyler there, I just got on the gas, and I think I overheated the front tires and kind of burned them off. So I had a ton of understeer, and credit to him, he ran me down, passed me, and I couldn't keep up with him. His car was better at the end. I think maybe I overabused my tires a little bit during the race. So congrats to him. I just, honestly, if I wouldn't have went off, he probably would have caught me and passed me anyway. So P2 was cool, though. I beat Sean, which is cool because we're, competing for the championship. So can't complain too much.
I was just about to ask about that, if that was your main concern, just staying ahead of Sean. Do you bother to try and kind of check where your points rivals are on track, or what they're doing with strategy, or do you not concern yourself with that when you're racing?
Yeah, I don't concern too much about it. I'm just, during the races, just trying to do as best I can. And then afterwards, I look, of course, and see, like, oh, okay, cool, I beat, but you're not, like, thinking too much about it because you're just trying to focus. Because, like, right there, one mistake, and the whole thing changes. So you're just trying to stay focused on the task.
Next race, it's going to be probably a bit hard to pass when we go to Mid-Ohio. So, are you going to be focused on the qualifying heading over to there just to double ensure that you can take the pole and try to control the race once again?
Yeah, Mid-Ohio will be super important. I ran today there for the first time in the GTE car, and it's an awesome track, really fun, great rhythm. But racing with people in practice, it's hard to pass a guy who's a second and a half a lap slower. So qualifying is going to be huge, and I'll definitely be putting a lot of effort into that. So yeah, it's another one where mistakes easy, but it'll cost huge. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a really fun race.
Absolutely, and a bit of a home track for me as well. So always enjoy calling those. Congratulations on another podium, second place today, and continuing with the points lead.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
It's Carl Modoff, the number 48, and our points leader, finishing second today. Nick is going to be talking to the driver chasing him both on track and in the points, Sean McBeth.
Yeah, Sean McBeth coming home with yet another podium this year. Just can't snag that win, and didn't catch any good luck tonight, did you?
No, not really. The podium's all good, but I had a point there during the race where my internet was really freaking out, and I did my pit stop in half a lap with nothing. Didn't see a single car on track, so that was a bit scary.
Yeah, we noticed that. Did that affect your pit stop speed at all? Because we couldn't quite tell if you got set back badly because of that, or if just your connection issues itself on track were causing problems for you.
Yeah, it set me back. I think all in all, I lost like 6 seconds in the whole exchange. It's weird when that happens. Like the car will have a bunch of grip and go super fast, and then the next second it slows way down and has no grip at all. So you're battling that the whole time, just praying that it comes back in, and thankfully it did.
Yeah, it's an eerie feeling for sure when you're on track in that situation. Joe mentioned briefly, just talking to Carl, and when you came in here as well, you're fighting him in the points. You don't have a win yet, but looking ahead, Mid-Ohio, Road Atlanta, and Daytona. You think you can chase him down?
I'll give it a good shot. I can tell you that. Carl, man, he's fast. That's why he's Mr. 10-time or whatever it is. But we'll give it a good shot for sure. Looking forward to Mid-Ohio. I haven't driven this car around there, but I did a little Porsche Cup last week and had some fun. And then actually kind of looking forward to Daytona as well. I've got a little something stored away for there, so we'll see how the rest of the series plays out.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see it. Hopefully in those 3 races we get to talk to you again.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for hosting this stuff. Thanks again to the team, SRTE Racing, and looking forward to the next one.
I think we're looking forward to it as well. That was third place, Sean McBeth, and that's going to take us to a close with the post-race interviews. We'll wrap up the broadcast with some thank yous, especially to SIMMSA. You can find them at SIMMSA.net if you'd like to look into how they can help you with your sim racing. As well, you could also check out Frazier Deeter, the other sponsor for this season. FrazierDeeter.com is where you can find their services for accounting and various other things. Also, a big thank you to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing eSports network. Make sure and subscribe when you get the opportunity. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page and click the big red button. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Nick, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_RAM. We mentioned it. Next week, we're going to Mid-Ohio. That'll be Tuesday, May 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.